Greetings, sinners, and welcome back to another episode of our Hellside Motel podcast. I am your host, Angel. You may have met me before, way back when I got my job as the new bellhop for Hellside. Well, anyway, I've decided to make this little podcast just to, from time to time, let you know of my thoughts, and I'd like to know if you share my opinion. Okay, the first thing we're going to talk about today is how little people read nowadays, especially when somebody goes into a grocery store or some other retail store. A lot of customers tend to, just look at the numbers on the shelf tag instead of reading it. And when that happens, it causes a lot of problems because then they get up to the line and they're embarrassed because, they know that they didn't read that shelf tag correctly. And it's like, they just are saying something, I guess, well, actually, I'm not really sure why. Maybe to try to make themselves feel better or something, because they realize they made a mistake. And hey, there's nothing wrong with making a mistake. That's how you learn. But anyway, it's just really something that people just don't really read anymore. It's like when you go into a store, you want to make sure that you're paying the correct price for the item that you want to buy. Am I right? And it would just, save a lot of problems and a lot of confusion if you would read, instead of just looking at the numbers that's on the tag or sign. Yeah, people, they'll just go into the store and then they'll just grab it and they'll be like, oh, this item costs $3. And then they get up to the register and it rings up 10. And it's something, then they want to go and spend, I don't know how long, arguing with the cashier about, how much about how much that item costs. And also, it is something, another interesting situation where people don't really read anymore is when they go to the gas station. I just really don't understand, people don't seem to know what gas pump that they pulled up on. It's like they go up to the window to pay, and then they freeze for a second because they have no idea what pump they went on. I don't understand how that's possible. There's plenty of signs there that say, hey, you're on pump 3 or whatever. Stuff like that. I just really kind of think that maybe the world nowadays is just in too much of a hurry. And I'm thinking, it's like, why are you in that much of a hurry that, you can't read a simple sign just so that you know what's going on? That might be what it is. It could be some other things too, but I guess that seems the more logical reason as to why. But anyway, and now it's another situation where people don't really read as much anymore is, I guess, in school. It's like, schools nowadays, they hardly ever even have books there anymore. It's like everything is on electronics. Everything is on, the students' computers. And I think that that's kind of sad. They should have more books in school. Because if you start kids out at an early age, they'll get interested in reading. And, that's something. It's like kids need that imagination in their life so that they can learn and grow. That's my opinion. You need your imagination because that's how you learn. You read a good book and, you can imagine in your head the situation that the character is going through. Just like the books I like to read sometimes. I love reading because you use your imagination. And then, hey, it is true when people say the book was better than the movie. A lot better than the movie. Because you get more of the story when you read the book. And plus in movies, they change the characters and they change a little things, I guess, just to cut down on screen time, I guess. But anyway, little stuff like that. Like, people need their imaginations. And if they can't read, if people don't get in the habit of actually reading, then they're going to miss out on some very valuable learning experiences. That's my opinion. But yeah, it's like, if people, took a little bit more time out of their day, to just simply read something and actually pay attention to it instead of just looking at a number or something, then they won't be embarrassed anymore. It's like, just when you go into a store or whatever, just read something, so you can still grow and learn. Alright, well, I guess that's about it for our little new podcast today, sinners. And I do thank you for joining me. And if you like our little topic today, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. And also, one thing before we go. This little podcast, it's not part of the series. This will be about a couple random topics, but, hopefully you enjoy listening to them as we post. But yeah, thank you so much, sinners, for tuning in, and this is your favorite bellhop signing out.